Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we will discuss the module Why is Health an Ethical Issue? This module is written by Andrew Edgar of Cardiff University. This module is part of Ethics 2 paper. I am Raghuram Raju from University of Hyderabad. Now, there is a close relation between health and human being. So, since human being is one of the major subject matters of ethics, health also, in that sense, becomes a part of ethical discussion. But then, health does not come directly into ethics. It comes via human being. So, since ethics is concerned about human being and health is concerned with human being, ethics is also concerned with health. So that's the relation. So there is no direct relation between health and ethics, but it is mediated through human being. Now, when we talk about health, we also immediately talk about ill health, because there are different notions of health. Similarly, there are different notions of ill health. There are different notions of human being. Similarly, there are different notions of health and there are different notions of ill health. Human beings who are healthy and human beings who are not healthy are distinguished. And there are other people who argue that it is ill health that shortens life. So, ill health makes a very important change or difference to human existence. Ill health also can reduce the quality of life. A sick person will not be able to perform actions properly like a healthy person. So, if somebody is sick and needs help, whether that will compromise on the autonomy of health is one important ethical discussion. The other aspect of this problem is that if we give help, if the person requires the help, assistance, and if it is to be given, who will give it? The one answer is himself or herself. That I am not well and I go to help myself to get rid of the sickness and become a healthy person. So the problem is not there at that level. There is a minor problem that I am not well, I am indisposed, I am not able to perform my actions as a healthy man is able to. But then that problem can be solved within the purview of myself. So there is a problem and I can handle that problem. The problem closes there. But the problem comes to face a complex issue when you have a situation where you are not well, you are sick, and then you need the help of other person. If you need the help of other person, and if you take the help of other person, does it amount to compromising your autonomy? The reason why it can lead to compromising your autonomy is because you are now depending on other people. If you are depending on other people, then does it not amount to at least marginally compromise your autonomy? Okay, if you take the help of other person, it amounts to compromising your autonomy is a very important point that comes in for ethical discussion. The second important aspect that comes for ethical discussion is, okay, somebody will give you help, that can be sorted out, but the problem comes how, for instance, if your ill health conflicts with the ill health of other person in terms of resources. Like you are there you are not well, and then helping you will conflict the health of other person. Like there is a person who is seriously sick and there is a person who is not so seriously sick. Suppose I have resources, unfortunately, unlimited resources. I have resources, unfortunately, limited resources. So what do? Do I give it to both the people equally, or do I grade the sickness and attend to it accordingly? Okay, so what should happen in this conflicting situation? So it is this that brings us to larger questions, where we ask the question, what is health and how is it defined and who defines it? Okay, is the health of a rich person more important than the health of a poor person? Is the health of one more important than the health of several people? And it so happens that there are few rich people and there are several poor people. What are different ways of understanding health? And what is the moral significance of health? And how do we have different interpretations of morality? Because morality also, it is not just there is one morality, as that there is no one definition of just health. There is also not one definition of human existence. So there are differences about definitions of human being. There are differences about definitions of health. There are also differences about definitions of what constitutes morals. So it is a very complex scenario and very important way several permutations and combinations have played into the discussion and made it very, very interesting and rich. So let us now take two schools of thought about health and then see where do they stand in regard to health. Let us take this very important school of ethics, namely libertarians. Libertarians are the ones, they include people like von Hayek and Nozick. They are the people who argue for least interference in human affairs. They are the ones who would say even states should not interfere in individuals making the choices. It is only this that will ensure the maximum use of autonomous choice by individuals. So they leave the individual to himself or herself and then don't interfere, and that would facilitate individual to have more choices. Individual will exercise more freedom and individual will perform what is best and what is maximum to his or her capacity. So these people would work what is subsequently called as negative rights. Like rights means absence of interference from the outside. There should not be any constraint from outside, and that should leave the individual to his autonomous or her autonomous realm. That's an important point. Now, these libertarians consider health to be a property. Okay, it is like other property. So I have a right to property. So I have a right towards health. So health for them is a property. Now let us analyze what happens, if you accept the health on par with property. What happens if you accept health as a possession or as a property is that. Let us take this instance where, for instance, you own a property and that's yours and nobody has right to deprive you of that property. Suppose there is an unfortunate incident where somebody steals your property. So you are deprived of your property. Okay, let's take another instance where you are a healthy person. Health is your possession. It's your resources, it's your property. Imagine a case where somebody comes and injures you, or imagine a case where you injure yourself. So injuring yourself will deprive you of health. Other person injuring you also will deprive you of your health. Okay, so what happens now? To this case, let us add one more complex situation. Let us imagine a case where somebody who has a contagious disease infects you. Okay, so will it compromise on your autonomy or not? All the three, that somebody stealing my property, somebody injuring me or I injure myself, somebody infecting me with the contagious disease, all these compromise on your autonomy insofar as you will not be able to act as perfectly, as efficiently as you would if you are a healthy man or a healthy woman. So that is the reason why the ill health comes to occupy the role of stealing, role of somebody depriving you of your property. So it is in this context health becomes a very important ethical concept. And then how we deal with it, what are the ways in which we have to treat this similarity between somebody stealing my property and somebody infecting me with a contagious disease. So the problem now with these 4 instances, namely somebody stealing my property, somebody injuring me, I injure myself, and lastly somebody infects me with a contagious disease. In all these things, what is important is that I need help to solve these problems. Okay, a libertarian faces this problem where he would maintain as his major position that outside interference should be avoided. If you avoid outside interference here, you will not get justice. So it is necessary that you need to take the help of state, take the help of hospital in order to overcome these problems. So the point that is of concern for the libertarians is, if the context demands that outside interference is important to solve this problem, to get justice, this also is a context where they would realize that it at least marginally compromises the autonomy of the individuals. Okay, like I get help from others. In some situation, I may have to either directly or indirectly help others. Directly, when other people forces me to help others. Indirectly, when they use in the form of a state my resources to help others. So in both the cases, this is a situation where health becomes a point where you will be forced to compromise your autonomy. The problem gets further complicated if the resources that are at the disposal are not unlimited. The resources are limited. If the resources are limited, should I get the assistance from the state or from others? Why should taxpayers help to solve the health problems of sick people? Okay, is public money meant for making people healthy, or is it meant for making people spending money on healthy people? So the question that is generally asked is public money spent for ill health, or is it to be spent on positives like promoting more health? That's the kind of a thing. The problem here is, if the answer is no, then the problem comes about how, for instance, the people who are not healthy can also interfere with the help of others who are already healthy. So that is an issue where there is no concrete answers from libertarians. Okay, libertarians will be forced to accept some compromise on the autonomy because there is a need for the outside interference to come to the rescue of people who are not healthy, like the people whose property is stolen. It is in this context you have a different school of thought, namely liberalism. In a liberalism, you have a situation where they would not consider health as a property. They would also consider that there is a provision for charity, there is a place for charity, though not forced by outside forces, but voluntarily somebody can choose to help a person who is sick and make that person healthy. So for instance, take this example that they would consider that health is not intrinsically good, and they would say that it is merely a means to realize other goals. So it is not just that there is something which is very wrong with it. It's just a means for people to act properly. Okay, so they would consider, for instance, smoking causes cancer. Okay, and if you have cancer, it compromises on the autonomy of your actions. So it is like if I am not healthy, I will not be able to function properly. Like if I am constrained by outside people from acting, or either state or other person, I will not be able to act properly. So they would say that like this health issue is like the issue about other things like your liberty or your freedom. So they would say, for instance, that stopping you from smoking amounts to stopping you from having these diseases like cancer. That's one thing that happens. So they would also in this context say that you should eat healthy food and exercise regularly. Now all these things also will contribute to the health, like reducing ill health also can go along with increasing health. So that's an important point that comes out with the liberalism. So health is for them is like a property to be like insured like house or car. So it is not able to insure health is like not able to insure your car. So health is also like a possession, but with this kind of a difference, strict difference with libertarians, where outside interference is called for, and then there is more interaction between the autonomous self with other autonomous people. Okay, this provision is more available in libertarians. So the major difference between libertarians and liberty is that the liberals would ask or allow some interference from the state. For instance, John Rawls talks about equal opportunity, and state adjudicates this kind of a thing. So the autonomy needs require external support. The outside also enable you to make autonomy possible. For instance, you want to be autonomous, it's not just being politically autonomous. You need a lot of biological and social requirements. For instance, you need food, and you can't make your own food. Somebody has to cook for you, somebody has to farm for you, somebody has to sell these things. All these things require external dependence. So you need food, you need shelter, you need education. Particularly education is necessary for somebody to be autonomous. Okay, so then the question is this autonomy a complete autonomy, or is it a truncated autonomy? Liberals do not have a problem. Libertarians will face this problem more acutely, because liberals do accept the dependency, marginal dependency of human being or the autonomous self on the state and things like that. So there is this person called Daniels who makes a distinction between the relation between health and autonomy. If we are healthy, he says, our autonomy will be healthy. We will be able to perform better. But if you are healthy, if you are not healthy, then it will compromise. So it is in this consent, health is necessary. So this places moral obligation upon others to provide health care. So moreover, the problem here is that the very idea of a need is very complex. Okay, the health need, in the health need is very complex. Okay, it is true that ill health is complex because there are different definitions of ill health. For instance, people talk about, health means absence of ill health. Health is not a state of affair, it is only absence of ill health. So to come back to the idea of a need, now one might ask this question, whose health needs are more important? A person who has cold, who needs a decongestion treatment, or a person who has cancer. Who should be attended to? Suppose if both are attended equally, then you are not taking into consideration the urgency. But suppose you attend to the cancer patient and not to the other person, you are compromising on equality. You are discriminating. In fact, you are discriminating against the autonomy of a person who suffers from cold. So this is a big problem. The problem, as I mentioned earlier, gets further aggravated if the resources that are available in a hospital that has patients who belong to first group and a patient who belongs to the second group. So how do you rationalize? How do you rank that kind of a diseases? Do you rank according to their payments, or do you rank according to their disease conditions or not? This becomes a serious problem. So there are also people who make a distinction between instrumental needs and absolute needs, or needs absolute or needs mere instrument. That I have a need, so that if I fulfill the need, I do something else for it, or the need is a good in itself. So I need to eat because I need to be healthy, or I need to eat because I enjoy eating, and nothing to do with, or if it has, it is only accidental to do with the health. So there's a big issue. So there are also another problem that comes in the discussion of the ethical treatment of health and ill health, namely, is health a social product? Okay, is physical fitness same as mental fitness? There are people who would argue, can we treat body only, or can we also treat mind? Okay, is there a relation between mind and body? Okay, this is also a very important issue that comes for discussion. So there is this complexity that surrounds the various gradations of the health, various payment enablers of health care, and also the limited resources, and also using of common money, public money, for health care. So the other important issue is that how do you distinguish between patients who will recover and patients who will not recover? There are these terminally ill people. Should they be treated? And should they be treated given the limited resources? Is a big question. If you say they should not be treated because that they are not going to recover, but that will compromise on the autonomy of individualism. So you have to be very, very clear about that. So you are stuck with several kinds of pulls and pushes in kinds of things. Suppose somebody asks this question: should money be spent on quality of life or ill health of individuals? Okay, the question looks crude, but then it has some relevance. It also reveals some pragmatic and realistic dilemmas society comes to have with regard to health. The other important point that comes in this context is, suppose you have a medicine, and that medicine, and you have two patients, and one patient, if it is given, will live for 10 years, the other person will not live for so many years but die in few days. So where should I give the treatment? Should I give it to the person who will live off for 10 years, or the person who will live only for few days? Suppose if the person to whom I will give this, and who will live for 10 years is an old man. Okay, should I spend money on a person who is old, who will not be useful for society? Or if the person who will live only for few days but young person, should I spend that money on that person or not? Should I spend my treatment on people who can recover completely, or should I spend my resources on people who will recover partially? That's also a very important point that comes out in this discussion. As a sum up, the libertarians think that health is morally important, health is a possession, health is a commodity. Those who do not have financial resources will place moral obligation on others in order to get the health care. Liberals, on the other hand, would say that health is not a commodity. It is a simple fact of biological function. There is a relation between dignity and autonomy, and the quality of life and healthcare are also related. Okay, so to sum up this module, what is important to see is that there is no direct relation between healthcare and ethics. The importance of healthcare in relation to ethics comes through the human being. It's human being who is healthy or who is not healthy. So insofar as health is important aspect of human being, ethics is concerned with the health care. Okay, as I said that there are different definitions of human being, there are different definitions of health, and there is also different accounts of ethics. So this makes the discussion very complex and allows different kinds of permutations and combinations. Thank you.